Welcome back to Grounded Spirits Podcast, a place where we're learning how to stay rooted while flying high. I'm your host, Laura Lynn, and we are on our Emerald Tablet series. We are on tablet number 3, the Key of Wisdom, and we're going to jump right in. So if you remember from the first episode, and if you haven't, you should go listen to it, where we said that Thoth, we're taking everything that Thoth is telling us as fact. And so that's how we're going to have to do this for Tablet 3, Key of Wisdom, because the first line says, I Thoth the Atlantean. So whether Atlantis was a real place or not, we're saying that it is in this context because Thoth is telling us so. So just wanted to reiterate that as we continue. The next line is, give of my wisdom, give of my knowledge, give of my power. Freely I give to the children of men. Give that they too might have wisdom to shine through the world from the veil of the night. So, as always, we're going to go through it by stanza, line by line. And so, if we remember in Tablet 2, it left off with him saying, like, the upper lords were like, you have to do something for work. And he's like, okay, then send me back to earth and I'll just teach men, the children of men. So that just means like mortal, like human. So he's like, I'm going to give them my wisdom, my knowledge, my power. And then hopefully I'll be able to teach them so that they'll have their own wisdom, that they'll be able to shine through the world in the veil of the night. So I think that's really interesting, like the words that he chose. So shine is like that fire that we saw in Tablet 2 with the little fires, and I was like, oh, it was maybe the souls, and then it was. So like that was cool. But by freeing the soul, by illuminating the soul, having like the inner light activated, we'll be able to navigate, because if we don't have that light, we're just sitting ducks in the darkness, is what he's saying. So we have this veil of the night that it's not really darkness. Like there's actually so much around us, we just can't see it. And yes, metaphorically, like if you're in the dark and you don't know what path to take, and so you're blind, even though there could be tons of opportunity around you, you're blind. In the metaphor, it would be like paths around you. In reality, it would be opportunities. The thing is, it's so crazy, the things that we can't see and the way that we use that word see. In my Carlos Castaneda books, he talks about seeing and how humans come off as luminous eggs, Don Juan says. But that Carlos can't see that, even though it's right in front of his face. You have to be able to see something in a different way. But this could also be like actually seeing, there's been like renderings of like AI, like what if there are other moons that are just invisible to us from this point of view, that go around Earth however far away, but we just like can't detect them. We don't have the tools to detect. So it's like interesting, because then you could also say like a feeling, like you have a feeling that someone's watching you or someone's behind you, and then there's no one there. Something is telling you that it is. So who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe your body that's telling you that that's happening, or are you going to believe your eyes? So it's interesting how they're both your body, but they're using different tools. I don't know a better word to use there. The next verse is, wisdom is power and power is wisdom, one with each other, perfecting the whole. And I really love this because I've been developing an inner map. And so what I've been doing is understanding the soul, mind, body, and spirit of each, the soul, mind, body, and spirit. So looking at like, what is the mind of the body? And for instance, that's ego. The mind of the body is ego. Whereas the soul of the body is love. Anyway, in the column of the soul, the spirit of the soul is power. And the soul is to understand the soul, you could either connect with it or categorize it. And both are going to give you wisdom. So I would say that you need both in order to gain power. Because then you really are perfecting the whole. And this goes along with my dissertation looking at polymaths. And how polymaths, my hypothesis is, like based on the research, that polymaths do have a soul that is more free. Because I believe that everybody is a polymath. Everybody needs to know everything in order to have their soul truly be free. That's the hypothesis. I don't know if it's actually true, but that's the whole point of the dissertation, right? So that's the whole point though, is like by learning a little bit of everything on the outside, you're learning a little bit of everything on the inside. And so by learning about both, then you're perfecting the whole. Like the whole of you. You have to know both. You have to have the roots and the branches. This is all my dissertation. Oh, quick side note, super cool. So to do all of this, what I'm doing, so I'm already a polymath, but just by having experience in the arts, humanities, natural and social sciences, I have experience in all four. But I want to be an actual polymath. Like, I want to know everything about everything. Like, I want to understand, like, how my heart pumps blood. I have no idea. I've never taken a class in anatomy or something like that. Or, like, I've never taken an economics class. And the last math class I took was, like, 10 years ago. So, what I'm doing is every single month, I'm going to look at 3 different subjects and learn about them, but not by like going out and I could take a course or I could read a book, but I just wanted to like be integrated into my life. And it's so cool how I'm only on week 2, maybe 3 now, and I've already seen a change in the way that I view the world and the opportunities that have come to me like for free. These opportunities have come like out of nowhere, out of the blue, just because I've been focusing on these 3 things. So it's been like a really cool thing. Anyway, so I'm doing a podcast called ELA Radio to go along with ELA Institute, where the dissertation is the foundation of that institute, which is going to be like a school/think tank type deal. It's going to be really cool. So go follow on Instagram. It's ELA Institute, ILA Institute. And ELA Radio is where I'm documenting this polymathic journey and giving you tips on how to do it yourself so that we can all allow our souls to feel free. And it's just so cool that it's here in the Emerald Tablets, that wisdom is power and power is wisdom. So the more that you know, the more power that you're going to have. And the more power that you have, the more that you're going to know. And not just in a know categorically or a knowing connectingly. I know that's not a word, but a knowing of both. Of knowing everything intimately about the machine and everything, the human part, and everything intimately about the divine part, about this specific, unique part of the divine. You have to know both. And that goes for anything, whether it's a car, a human body, and a plant, a planet, anything. We have to know both. We have to know what vibes they're giving off I'm posting this hopefully tomorrow. I went on a walk in Irvine this weekend, and I took pictures of trees, and I don't know why, because I never had before, but I guess that doesn't sound so weird, but the trees were asking me to take pictures of them, and I wasn't high, so this was just natural, so it was weird, but I did, and now I'm going through, and you can sense the vibes of these trees. And so I'm putting together a post of the vibes that they give off, that I think that they give off, and I want to know if you agree with me or not. Can we both perceive this tree giving off this vibe? Because then that's how you know that it's true. Because if we know that the whole 69 thing, where one person's screaming it's a 6, the other person's screaming it's a 9, just depending on their perspective. But if we're looking down and we're both seeing an 8, and we both agree that it's an 8, I'm saying an 8 would be the vibe of the tree. Then isn't that the vibe of the tree? That's how we know that that's knowledge, that that's truth. It's a question. So when I post it, you can comment there. All right, let's move on. Be thou not proud, O man, in thy wisdom. So this is saying with the ego, once you have the knowledge, so I think the wisdom is once you become a polymath in a way, that you're able to make these different connections because you've been able to see a lot. And that's what they always say, wisdom is only for the elders, because they've been around the block, they've seen these different circumstances, they've seen these different manners. And part of my paper is looking at indigenous cultures and saying how they weren't structured in their education, yet they still follow the polymathic strategy. So it's just by living, you need to know everything. Just to live. But the thing is that you get to know the best parts of everything for you, the most interesting parts for you. The same, we can both love math and love different parts of math. And that could go for anything. We could both love elephants and have different reasons why we love those elephants, but we still love the elephants. That's how it should be, instead of saying, oh no, I don't like elephants because you're saying I can only look at its ears. That's what hyper specialization is doing to us. Oh, I'm only an English person. I hate anything math. I hate anything tech. Why? You're just gonna completely, that's a whole half of you that you're not even going to explore, you're not even going to go look at. It's still you. I'm sure you could find plenty of things that you'd find super interesting in those fields if you would just give it a chance. And vice versa. The engineer who doesn't want to go, I don't know, to a classical music, a symphony. Oh, that's only for the arts. Or whatever, it's not for me. I have to be always mathy. All right, moving on. Discourse with the ignorant as well as the wise. So I think this is super important, because if scholars just keep talking to other scholars, how is the information getting trickled down? They're moving over here, and then there's still a whole population that isn't. We have to make sure that education is accessible to everyone, to everywhere, to everyone, everywhere. And that's why it's super important, because if the wise talks to the ignorant, then the ignorant becomes wise, because you don't know what you don't know until you know it. Once you know that you don't know something, then that's the start of a journey. But you don't know, for instance, when I went to an art gallery last week, the opening of it, of a collection. I had no idea like what it took to create the collection, to find the through line between all of these pieces. And it was really beautiful because there were pieces that came from around the world, and then students also made pieces. So it was really beautiful to see the two, how they blended really well. So yeah, it's really important to include the entire society into the realm of academia. If one comes to thee full of knowledge, listen and heed, for wisdom is all. So basically saying everyone can teach you something. There is always something in somebody. No, how do I say this? Everyone can teach you something. There's something in everybody that you don't know. And so that's why it's super important that the wise talk to the ignorant, because you're ignorant too, because everybody knows something that you don't. Whoa, that's humbling, but it's true. Everyone brings a different perspective, and they all see the world differently. That is insightful in its own way. And it's just a matter of voicing that. And I think that's why it's also really important to ask questions as like follow-ups when just like, even in small chat, like small talk, because like you're always like trying to dig, like to see like how they view the world. Because if we're thinking about it, everybody's a mirror of us. It's like, why wouldn't you want to learn more and to build? I feel like that also like makes the connection stronger, because you're getting deep. You're not just keeping it shallow where you're almost in isolation. Like you say hi and bye, but it's like we're each on our own islands. Okay, moving on. Keep thou not silent when evil is spoken for truth. Like the sunlight shines above all. He who oversteppeth the law shall be punished, for only through law comes the freedom of men. 'Cause thou not fear, for fear is a bondage, a fetter that binds the darkness to men. So here he's basically saying, like, you have to stand up for what you believe in, and you have to, like, make sure that your throat chakra is cleared so that you can stand up and fight back for when people it's like basically like when it's fake news, and you have to shine your light above all. And then it talks about the law, that if people step out of the law, then you're taking away freedom from everybody, because now everybody is on guard. So why would you do that? Why would you disturb like the peace? So it's only through law that we can be free. So like, listen to yourself, listen to what is right and what is good, and then you won't have to step out. Because thou not fear, for fear is a bondage. So when you fear, that's when you get constrained. That's when you have your limitations. That's when you put yourself in a prison. It's because of fear. The second that you drop the fear, then you're able to feel free. A fetter that binds the darkness to men. Yeah, that's the fear is the bondage for that. Follow thine heart during thy lifetime, Which is interesting because in Carlos Castañeda, Don Juan says that too. Take the path that has the most heart. Do thou more than is commanded of thee. When thou hast gained riches, follow thine heart. For all these are no avail if thine heart be weary. Diminish thou not the time of following thine heart. It is abhorred of the soul. So basically he's saying you have to follow your heart, because if you get all this money but your heart's not in it, you're not going to be fulfilled, so it's pointless, and it is abhorred of the soul. So it's like it would make the soul sick. It would like make you barf. Like you're just so sick and just disgusted that you could possibly go on a path that isn't where your heart is. Moving right along. So this is on page 18 if you are on the file that I emailed you. If you want to get this one, you can always email me at groundedspirits@gmail.com or send me a DM. You could just say email or like Emerald Tablets. Just write Emerald Tablets in the DM and I'll email it to you too. Oh, and your email, obviously. So this is on page 18. At the bottom, it says, they that are guided go not astray, but they that are lost cannot find a straight path. If thou go among men, make for thyself love the beginning and the end of the heart. So once again, it's about following your heart. And if you're guided by your heart, you're never going to go astray. You're going to be exactly where you need to be. So as long as your heart is in it 100%, you're solid. And the thing is that so many of us aren't doing what our heart is telling us 90% of the time. And that's like what I really want to help change, like with Grounded Spirits. Like, I hate that people hate their jobs. Like, you should be so excited and so happy to go to work. And he even said it on here. This is in the third to the bottom on page 18, the verse that says, do thou more than is commanded of thee. Like, you should have the energy to do more than what is expected of you. But the thing is that so many of us are tired because we're doing things that we don't want to do. So, yeah, moving right along. If one cometh unto thee for counsel, let him speak freely, that the thing for which he hath come to thee may be done. If he hesitates to open his heart to thee, it is because thou, the judge, doeth wrong. So he's saying that if someone doesn't want to open up to you, that's on you. Because that means that you're sending the wrong vibes. You're sending that soul that it's not safe for your heart to open up. Because why do you think that it's so easy to talk to some people and not to others? Like, we'll flip it, Because some people make us feel like it's safe to act in this way. And others don't, and we're on edge. And that's when we get the anxiety, too. But what he's saying here is that, no, it's not up to you. No, it's not up to them to open up their heart to you. It's up to you to make it a safe place for them to open up their hearts. Repeat thou not extravagant speech, neither listen thou to it, for it is the utterance of one, not in equilibrium. Speak thou not of it, so that he before thee may know wisdom. So this one, I'm going to try my best to make sense of it. What I think that he's saying is that after you tell him whatever it is that you say, like, don't repeat yourself, but don't listen to it either. Like, don't listen to whatever it is that he has to say if his heart isn't open, because it doesn't matter what he's saying. It's about what the vibes are sending back to you, so that you know if you're creating a safe space or not. But don't listen to the actual words. Think of the energy, because it's not, for it is the utterance of one. So it's just you reflecting back to you. It's a part of you that you have yet to uncover, not in equilibrium. So it's like these two, if you guys cannot open up your hearts to each other, then you guys aren't balanced. Like somebody has the energy that the other person needs, or vice versa. Same thing. That once that energy is balanced, then you guys will be good. And then don't say anything about it, because then he'll have more wisdom over you. Instead, just think about it for yourself. And I think that's really important, because we can shape the way that we view ourselves depending on what people say about us, about our energy specifically. I always think that that's the best compliment, when someone says, "I love your energy." It just makes you feel so good. Okay. Silence is of great profit. An abundance of speech profiteth nothing. Exalt not thine heart above the children of men, lest it be brought lower than the dust. So what's so cool is, a long time ago, probably like 2016, 2017, I went to this conference, and it was from like a Christian church conference. It was actually really cool. I really, really loved it. And we made like these like blackboards, and we traced a stencil over it, and it had a quote, and with like really pretty like flowers and stuff. And mine said, "Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks." And I never understood what it meant. Yet I always loved it, and so I had it on my dresser, and I would see it every day. And then when I moved, I brought it into my meditation room. Like, I really loved this quote, even though I had no idea what it meant. Now I'm doing a lot of soul research. What's funny is that before Grounded Spirits was a place to talk about like soul research within like myself, and just like spending time with me, getting high, like talking to myself, talking to God, and like doing that kind of soul research. But now it's like actually like what have scholars said about the soul, and doing all this research now, and now creating the Urnellian inner map, I'm able to pinpoint like what the heart means, what the mouth means, and all these different things. And out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, is saying, only speak from the heart. And I think that is what Thoth here is telling us as well. That an abundance of speech profiteth nothing. That it doesn't matter it doesn't matter whatever you guys say to each other if you guys aren't opening your hearts up to each other. It does not matter, because if your heart isn't the one speaking, then it's garbage. Exalt not thine heart above children of men, lest it be brought lower than dust. So like, don't think you're better than anybody else. Don't think that your heart is above anybody else, because then it's going to get brought lower than the dust. Because your heart, that's the whole point of being in a community. We're all equals. We can all open up our hearts to each other because it's safe. But if we're not willing to create spaces for people to open up their hearts to you, then your heart, because you think that your heart is above theirs, so you're not creating a safe space, So then your heart is the one that's trash because you're not the one that's creating a safe space for your community. Sheesh, Thoth is hitting it hard. All right. If thou be great among men, be honored for knowledge and gentleness. That is so interesting because the art gallery collection opening reception that I went to was about gentleness. And looking at all these different paintings and art pieces of what gentleness means, even in a form of violence. It's very interesting. So here, though, he's talking about, like, just men. We should be honored that they have knowledge and gentleness. And this is interesting because a lot of early modern philosophers were looking at knowledge and gentleness and generosity and saying that these were of God. And so that's why humans have them. And so we should be thanking God for these gifts and not wasting them, that we need to use them. Like, we need to have our studies, learn about everything on the outside so that we learn about our stuff on the inside, and then to be gentle with each other, to be kind to each other, to not oppress each other. If thou seekest to know the nature of a friend, ask not his companion, but pass a time alone with him, debate with him, testing his heart by his words and his bearings. So, like, you have to see it for yourself. It doesn't matter what anybody else says about this person. You have to see it for yourself. You can't judge a book by its cover. You can't judge a book because of gossip or hearsay. You have to figure it out for yourself, and you have to figure out if he's speaking from his heart. That's your only job when talking to somebody, is, are they speaking from the heart, yes or no? And if they're not, then that's on you. Then you have to create a more inviting place for them to be able to open up their heart to you. Man, this is like solid advice here, my guys. That which goeth into the storehouse must come forth, and that things are thine must be shared with a friend. So here I have an interesting theory. I think that by storehouse, he's kind of talking about the heart. So let me tell you how. That which goeth into the heart must come forth. So if you're allowing somebody into your storehouse, if you're allowing somebody into your heart by opening up to them, then, like, they're going to have to leave eventually, you know, because boundaries. So it's like, what are they taking with them? So every person that you meet, you want to give them a little gift, is what he's saying. And that things are thine must be shared with a friend. So whoever goes into your storehouse and takes a few things, you want them to share it with somebody else. Because then that person will then share it with somebody else, and it goes on like that. So just by you being yourself and you being knowledgeable and, what was the other one? Gentle, then that's how we're going to make a better world. By allowing people into our storehouse, allowing people into our hearts, and allowing them to take a little something, the thing that they love the most of you, that they can then share on with everybody else. Knowledge is regarded by the fool as ignorance, and the things that are profitable are to him hurtful. He liveth in death. It is therefore his food. So this is really interesting because in like Carlos Castaneda books, they talk about how Don Juan says that you can choose to be happy or you can choose to be miserable, but they each take the same amount of work. So you have to work hard to be miserable, or you have to work hard to be happy. So why not be happy? And I think he's kind of saying something along the lines, here, knowledge is regarded by the fool as ignorance. So if someone's a fool, that means that they have the knowledge, they know what they could do, but they're choosing to do this other thing, even though, because they think, okay, how do I say this? They think that this other path would be easier, but they end up costing the same. They end up hurting the same, whether it's like through hard work, through the labor, or through like hurting people and like having that kind of emotional baggage. It's the same price either way. So why not do the respectable, honorable thing? The wise man lets his heart overflow, but keeps silent his mouth. So it's so interesting. It's like exactly like that quote I was telling you about. Out of the abundance of the heart, out of the overflow of the heart, may your mouth speak. But here, they're saying, even when your heart is overflowing, you still remain silent. Oh man, listen to the voice of wisdom. Listen to the voice of light. List to the voice of wisdom, list to the voice of light. What could that mean? I don't know in that context how would list be used. But what I think that they're saying, going along the lines of the quote that comes from the Christian Bible though, so that the only time that this is exactly what it's saying. The only time that your mouth should speak is if it's voicing wisdom or if it's voicing light. So even out of the abundance of the heart, you still shouldn't speak. Because some things are only to overflow inside of you. It's only to replenish you. It's not meant for other people. So you should only speak when you're giving wisdom or sharing light, sharing that joy, sharing that happiness. It's the only times that you should speak. Now I'm at the bottom of page 19. Mysteries there are in the cosmos that unveiled fill the world with their light. Let he who would be free from the bonds of darkness first divine the material from the immaterial, the fire from the earth. For know ye that as earth descends to earth, so also fire ascends unto fire, and becomes one with fire. He who knows the fire that is within himself shall ascend unto the eternal fire, and dwell in it eternally. Oh my gosh, so much to talk about in this verse here at the end of page 19. So the first things first with Don Juan, he talks about mysteries of the world and being able to see in the way that he means it is to unveil a different world, to have a different description of the world. And then Carlos Castañeda, he labels this sorcery. And he says that Don Juan talks about it, but he never shows how that came about. I never see him refer to himself as a sorcerer. He talks to himself as like a man of knowledge or like a seer, or that's besides the point. Okay. So that's the first part. The mysteries there are in the cosmos that unveiled fill the world with their light. So the more that we know about ourselves, the more that we're going to be able to share our light and be able to understand the world better. Let he who would be free from the bonds of darkness first divine the material. So here it says divine, but I think divine, oh my gosh, guys. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. Okay, divine here is saying like divide. And remember, that's how God became God, because God divided himself from the Holy Spirit. He was like, these are all the parts that are me, not part of you, Holy Spirit. And that's what is going on right here. So let he who would be free from the bonds of darkness, that's God. So God had his own light, and that's how he was able to separate what was him and what was darkness. First divine the material from the immaterial. So he was able to divide what was material and immaterial. The fire from the earth. Oh my gosh. So he's the fire. God is the fire. God is like the masculine fire. And then earth is the female. So if you think about Gaia, or if you think about just like earth in general, or like nature, we always say like her. We use that language. Whereas with God, we always say he. And that's not a coincidence, guys. Oh my gosh. For know ye that as earth descends to earth, so also fire ascends unto fire and becomes one with fire. So by him becoming fire, by God becoming fire, he became the all, the infinite, the source. And he ascended. And so that's what we always say, think of ascending, like going to heaven, you know, like it's like bright and beautiful. In my book Monterey, I talk about heaven, or where angels are, as like this corporate office, but it's like all in white and it's really beautiful, and they all have like their own like spotlight. If you want to read that book, it's on Amazon. But I just think it's interesting like how we conceptualize heaven. Yeah, and then he who knows the fire that is within himself. So that's what I was saying before too, that God, so I've kind of come up with a way to prove that God exists. And it's going to be kind of a crazy ride, but let me explain. So when we do something right or something good, we feel good. Like we feel this feeling inside of like, hey, I did a good thing. And then when we do something that we shouldn't be doing, we also feel it. We have like this guilt, or like, oh, hey, something doesn't feel right in here. Like, I don't think I should be doing this, right? And then we equate those feelings with the devil of bad feelings, or with God, with the good feelings. And with early modern philosophers, they would look at all of these qualities that are good, that make us feel good inside, and attribute them to God. And that's why God is this all-powerful, omniscient, like all good person. And then the job of humans is to become like God. But I think that like they were just attributing these qualities to God, but we're just saying this because of what we feel inside, you know? And so God really does reside inside of us. And then when we think about soul, we think about a flame, or when we think about like soulmates, or even like a love interest, people say like, oh, like the flame inside, or that flame sizzled out, you know? But it comes down to the flame, the soul that's inside of each of us. And here he's saying that he who knows the fire that is within himself shall ascend unto the eternal fire and dwell in it eternally. So this is like what Jesus was talking about. Jesus would say this too, like to look inside, like all of these like inside kind of things, that this is where God exists, is inside of us, within our soul. And so he who knows the fire that is within himself shall ascend unto the eternal fire. So if once we set ourselves free, set our souls free, be who we truly are inside of ourselves, inside of our soul. And by the way, this is your rising sign. And it has been such a whirlwind figuring this out, because I always thought that my mind was really developed and I was barely getting to know my soul. But I'm an Aquarius rising, so it's like knowledge is speaking to my soul, and that's why I love everything. Whereas my mind is in Leo, so she's over here just trying to be a director and trying to control everything in my life. And I'm like, you can't control it anymore because it's out of our control, because she's the one that would like explode on everybody or have anger issues. And it's like, we can't do that anymore. We don't have any control anymore. And then back to Carlos Castaneda, he says the only thing that we can control is our dreams. So focus on that. And that's what I've been like trying to work on myself. But anyway, so by setting yourself free on the inside, then you will be able to ascend to the eternal fire and dwell in it eternally. So I think this is like what Jesus was saying, like, if you can have the freedom of the soul, then you will be able to live eternally with the Lord. Next verse, the top of page 20. Fire, the inner fire, is the most potent of all force, for it overcometh all things and penetrates to all things of the earth. So it's basically saying here that every single thing has a soul. So like this car has a soul, that light has a soul, that truck has a soul, this backpack has a soul. Is basically what it's saying here, that fire, the inner fire, it's talking about souls, is the most potent force of all, because all together we create God. For it overcometh all things and penetrates to all things of the earth. So every single thing on earth has a soul. And this is also what early modern philosopher Anne Conway said as well. Man supporteth himself only on that which resists. So earth must resist man, else he existeth not. This part I don't really understand. Guys, I figured it out and it's sad. So basically it's saying that we can only exist if the earth doesn't want us here, because we can only support ourselves on things that resist. Because, like, think about it, like, how do I say this? If the soil didn't resist us, then didn't hold us up, then it would turn to like the ocean. It would just be mush. Like we need somewhere to have a foundation. So we need something that resists us so that they can hold us up. So earth must resist man, else he existeth not. So it's like interesting, because looking at like all the things that, like all the environmental issues that we have going on at the time right now in 2024, we think about wanting to rebuild this relationship with earth, but if it's meant to resist us, then I don't know like where that leads us. Like, are we destined to the end of the world, and then it'll just like renew and get a new batch of humans? Or like, I don't really know where to go from here. Or could it be not necessarily, maybe the resisting part could be like the fear-based part, and instead it could be, have you seen those things on Instagram where these guys, they climb up this tree and they have just like this rope, like a really, really long rope, and they just start going from tree to tree and making their like little nests, and then they like weave it, and then they can just chill. It's like a little hammock. So what if by making all these connections, we start building this fabric, and then the fabric is what resists us and that can hold us up. So we're no longer harming anything. And in my Carlos Castaneda book, specifically in Journey to Ixtlan, they talk about this a lot, about the strings of the earth that you can feel with your eyes or with your hands or with your will that like shoots out of your stomach, that you can feel these lines of the world. Or then he passes him some rocks, and he's like, these are strings, like they're not rocks, they're strings. And then Carlos reports feeling levitated like from the ground just by sitting in this pile of rocks. Like he like outlined the rocks, like as if they were a cot. Like he slept in this like outline of rocks. But he said he reported like feeling that he wasn't touching the floor. So it's like, what if we don't need the earth to resist us? What if we can find other ways to find that resistance so that we can support ourselves and not harm anybody? All eyes do not see with the same vision, for to one an object appears of one form and color, and to a different eye of another. So also the infinite fire, changing from color to color, is never the same from day to day. So it's like a little we were talking about before, where we each have our own perspective and we can each learn from the others because we all see things differently. But this is something I had never considered, that the infinite fire, I think he's probably meaning God, but I'm going to take it as the sun, changes from color to color and is never the same from day to day. So when looking at the sun, it's not like we could compare it to a different sun. You know, like, does it change colors every day and we don't notice? And then you think about the sunset, like those colors change every day. So why couldn't the sun itself change colors every day? And not just the sun, but the way that the sun, if the sun is changing colors, then the things around us look different. So looking at a leaf, if I come back the next day and it's growing on a tree, will it be the same color? Probably not, because young leaves are lighter than more mature leaves. They naturally change color. So anytime that you see a leaf, it's only going to be that color for a short amount of time. And I think that's really interesting because we talk about people when we like get to know the quote unquote real them, or it's usually in a negative connotation, that we say, oh, now I can see your true colors. But it's like, my color changes every day. So how could you see my true colors if I'm never the same color? And I find myself saying this a lot to my husband, that like, that's not me anymore. Like, I'm done with that part of me. We're moving on. And I think that's just growth. And that's the whole point of existing, is to grow. We're just like plants. We're just hypermobile plants. That's all that we are. But when it comes down to it, we're just plants. All we want to do is grow. And how do we grow? Through knowledge. Thus I speak, Thoth, of my wisdom, for a man is a fire burning bright through the night, never is quenched in the veil of the darkness, never is quenched by the veil of the night. So I think here he's talking about himself, because he's like, of my wisdom, for a man is bright. So he's saying that he burns so bright that his soul is so free that it is just exuding light, that it could never be quenched by the veil of darkness or night, because he just shines that bright that he is done hiding any part of himself. I'm going to give you like a quick tip that has completely changed my life. So, like I said, I'm doing a lot of research in soul, mind, body, and spirit, and I have figured out, like I was saying earlier, that the rising sign is the soul. Your Mercury sign is your mind. Your sun sign is your spirit. And your moon sign is your body. And wherever you have those placements, it tells a story of your soul's way to freedom. For me, my soul is in Aquarius, like I mentioned earlier. Then I have Leo, Sagittarius. So my soul, my little air sign, has to go through all of this fire to be able to come out and to show her own fire. And it's so cute because the three fires, they have like been like lighting the way And I kind of feel like it's an elemental where it's like you have like these like fire girls and like water guys and like all of these different ones. But it's specifically I'm talking about when she has the bubble where they blow so she can go see her flower underwater. And I kind of feel like that's where I'm getting at, where I have this wind so that my fire can go and be bright. And so that's like what Thoth is talking about here, that now he's saying that he's all fire now. Like he doesn't have anything else. And I'm almost there. I have, like I said, one air sign, the rest are fire. So if you think about wherever you're at, you can look at your path, your soul's path to freedom. If you have any questions about it, you can send me a DM at Grounded Spirits or email me at groundedspirits@gmail.com. Into men's hearts I looked by my wisdom, found them not free from the bondage of strife. So he's trying to find, so everything that he's been saying, like he's trying to like have a warm appearance so that people will be able to open up their hearts. But he found that no one knows how to open up their hearts anymore. And that because they're not free from the bondage of strife. Free from the toils, thy fire, O my brother, lest it be buried in the shadow of night. So you need to get your fire out because it's going to get buried in the shadow of night. And then you have like a whole soul thing, that Disney movie where Little 22 turns into this like big sand scary monster. He was like, there's a lost soul. Hark ye, O man, and list to this wisdom. Where do name and form cease? Only in consciousness invisible, an infinite force of radiance bright. The forms that ye create by brightening, they vision are truly effects that follow thy cause. So he's saying, like, when you go back to source and you don't have a name, you don't have a body, you're just a soul, you don't have a form, so it's a body, you're just a pure consciousness. That is when your peak form, that is when you're brightest. They vision are truly effects that follow thy cause. Man is a star bound to a body. So that's what I was saying before too, like your soul is your star. Man is a star bounded to a body until in the end he is freed through his strife. Only by struggle and toiling thy utmost shall the star within thee bloom out in new life. He who knows the commencement of all things, free his star from the realm of night. Remember, O man, that all which exists is only another form of that which exists not. So that part's really interesting because right now I'm reading in my Carlos Castaneda book about not doing. And we see this a little bit in the Everything Everywhere All at Once movie, that they have to do these like weird things, like things that they normally wouldn't do. That's like the not doing in order to have like new windows into different lives. Because every decision that you make, it's creating two timelines and you just kind of go on from there. The last two verses, it's just about everything that we've been saying, you know, like the soul's inside of you. That's nothing new. Remember, O man, all that exists. Okay, so here we are. Everything that has being is passing into yet another being, and thou thyself are not an exception. So my energy is going into you right now. Like you're listening to my voice. This is a part of me. And now it's going into you. And then you're going to give that energy to somebody else. And then eventually it's going to get back to me. Someone's going to give me energy that you put out because you listen to me in this space here. So he's saying that we're not exceptions. Like we are so interconnected that we're constantly exchanging energy. Consider the law, for all is law. Seek not that which is not of the law, for such exists only in the illusions of the senses. Wisdom cometh to all her children, even as they cometh unto wisdom. So, be yourself, and anything that's not yourself is an illusion, and don't engage. Just listen to yourself, because that's where the wisdom shall come. All through the ages the light has been hidden. Awake, O man, and be wise. Deep in the mysteries of life have I traveled, seeking and searching for that which is hidden. Again, he's talking the hidden part, the light that has been hidden. This is the soul, that the soul has been in chains for centuries now, that we haven't allowed ourselves to do what we wanted to do. And before, it was when we were in tribes that if we didn't follow the group, if we didn't do what we wanted to do, we would die. And we chose survival over being ourselves. And so now it's this insidious trauma that we all have it. We all have this trauma that we're all trying to heal from. And this is how we're going to do it, by freeing our souls. That's all we need to do. And that's what my whole dissertation is on. Okay. Deep in the mysteries of life have I traveled, seeking and searching for that which is hidden. List ye, O man, and be wise. Far neath the earth crust in the halls of Amenti, mysteries I saw that are hidden from men. Oft have I journeyed the deep hidden passage, looked on the light that is life among men. There neath the stars, there neath the flowers of life ever living, searched I the hearts and the secrets of men. Found I that man is but living in darkness. Light of the great fire is hidden within. That there's just darkness around us. We have to do as God did and separate ourselves from the darkness using our light. And the rest of it was just a refresher from chapter 2. Before the lords of hidden Amenti learned I the wisdom I give unto men. Masters are they of the great secret wisdom, brought from the future of infinity's end. 7 are they, the lords of Amenti, overlords they of the children of morning, sons of cycles, masters of wisdom. Formed are not they as children of men. 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9 are the titles of the masters of men. Formed are not they as the children, but it's a question. Because at first I was like, okay, maybe they're just not human. But it's a question. Formed are not they as children of men. So maybe that they do have a body just like us. Far from the future, formless yet forming, came they as teachers for the children of men. Live they forever, yet not of the living, bound not to life, yet free from death. So that talking about the masters of men. Rule they forever with wisdom, with infinite wisdom, bound yet not bound to the dark halls of death. Life they have in them, yet life is not life. Life they have in them, yet life is not life. Free from all are the lords of the all. So they're free to do whatever you want, but the thing is that if you are so isolated, then what kind of a life is that? I kind of feel like that's what he's getting at here. Life they have in them, yet life is not a life. Because if you're just doing the same thing every day, then you're still in a prison. There's a great book, but it's Psychopolitics. And the first line is that you can never truly achieve freedom because it's constantly changing, but you can listen to your heart and know that it's always going to lead you to freedom. Forth from them came forth the Logos. So this is like the reason, the rational mind that's from God. So it's like the God-given, like common sense manual. Forth from them came forth the Logos, instruments they of the power over all. Vast is their countenance, yet hidden in smallness. Formed and forming, known yet unknown. I kind of think that this has to do with like my whole tree thing that I was talking about, where you have the roots of the soul, mind, body, and spirit, and the branches are the arts and humanities and natural and social sciences. And I think that kind of goes with this too, like the whole as above, so below, known yet unknown, formed yet forming, vast yet small. But the point is that this is all part of the rational mind, are these contradictions. So like, how does that work? So now we're going to learn about each of the lords. 3 holds the key of all hidden magic. Creator he of the halls of the dead, sending forth power, shrouding with darkness, binding the souls of the children of men, sending the darkness, binding the soul force, director of negative to the children of men. So this is the devil? Sending darkness, director of negative, shrouding with darkness. He created the halls of the dead. Maybe. 4, he is who loses the power. Lord he of life to the children of men. Light is his body, flame is his countenance. Freer of souls to the children of men. 5 is the master, the Lord of all magic. Key to the word that resounds among men. So the word is also sometimes translated from logos, the Greek. And here he's using the word resounds, and it kind of sounds like when you say that sounds good, or when you say that's sound logic, you use that word sound, and so it's like a frequency that speaks truth. So that's kind of what I'm getting from 5 here. 6 is the Lord of the light, the hidden pathway, path of the souls of the children of men. But what I don't get is that wasn't 4 also the Lord of the light? Oh, okay, Lord of life. And then 6 is Lord of light. 7 is he who is Lord of the vastness, master of space and the key of times. And that's interesting because God created the world in 7 days. And so this is like the master of space and time. So like, maybe is this supposed to be God? Maybe. 8 is he who orders the progress, weighs and balances the journey of men. 9 is the Father, vast he of countenance, forming and changing from out of the formless. 9 is also like the ending, or like the end of a cycle, I guess is the best way to put it. So that's constantly changing. Meditate on the symbols I give thee. Keys are they, though hidden from men. Reach ever upward, O soul of the morning. Turn thy thoughts upward to light and to life. Find in the keys of the numbers I bring thee. Light on the pathway from life unto life. Seek ye with wisdom, turn thy thoughts inward. Close not thy mind to the flower of light. So once again, seek ye with wisdom, turn thy thoughts inward, learn about yourself, close not thy mind to the flower of light. So that you have a light inside of you, you have a flower that's ready to bloom inside of you, just have to allow it. Place in thy body a thought-formed picture. Think of the numbers that lead thee to life. Clear is the pathway to he who has wisdom. Open the door to the kingdom of light. Put forth thy flame as a sun of the morning. Shut out the darkness and live in the day. Take thee, O man, as part of my being, the seven who are but are not as they seem. Opened, O man, have I my wisdom. Follow the path in the way I have led. Masters of wisdom, son of the morning light and life to the children of men. And sun, morning light, and life are all capitalized. So yeah, basically he's saying that we're all in darkness until one day our soul is going to come up as the sun over the horizon and finally be free. And we have to just we have to follow our heart, to follow the path that is going to lead us to this place. So that is it for tablet number 3. And next week we'll be doing number 4, The Space is Born. So that'll be super interesting. If you want to learn more about Grounded Spirits, please check us out at Grounded Spirits on Instagram. If you want to learn more about me, I'm at It's Laura Lynn, ITSLAURAALYN, all on Instagram. And yeah, if you learned something, please rate this podcast 5 stars, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.